The trade station New Horizon buzzed with activity as dozens of alien species moved through its corridors. Ships docked and undocked in a constant rhythm while merchants haggled over prices and diplomats discussed treaties. The massive structure floated in the neutral zone between three star systems, making it the perfect place for interspecies commerce. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the main corridor of the station, his boots clicking against the metal floor. He had come here to pick up supplies for his ship, the Starbound, but something caught his attention. In the shadows near the waste disposal units, a small figure huddled against the wall. Jake moved closer and saw it was a child, no more than 8 years old by human standards. The child belonged to the Velthani race, with their distinctive crystalline skin that normally shimmered with beautiful colors, but this child's skin looked different. Dark veins ran through the crystal-like surface, creating an ugly pattern that seemed to pulse with a sickly light. The child noticed Jake approaching and pressed himself further against the wall. His large eyes, typical of the Velthani, filled with fear. Jake had seen many alien species during his years in space, but he had never seen such terror in a child's face. "Hey there, little one," Jake said softly, kneeling down to the child's level. "What's your name?" The child's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Jake activated his universal translator and tried again. This time he heard a whisper. "Zephyr," the child said in the musical language of the Velthani. Jake looked around the corridor and noticed something strange. Every alien who passed by made sure to stay far away from the child. The tall, green-skinned Korthic merchants actually spat on the ground when they saw Zephyr. The elegant Soltharian diplomats with their flowing robes quickly crossed to the other side of the corridor. Even the usually kind Methany healers, known throughout the galaxy for their compassion, refused to look in the child's direction. "Where are your parents, Zephyr?" Jake asked. The child's skin darkened even more, and Jake's translator picked up something that sounded like sobbing. "Gone," Zephyr whispered. "They left me here 3 days ago." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. What kind of parents would abandon their child on a space station? He reached out his hand and Zephyr flinched away. "It's okay," Jake said. "I won't hurt you." Dr. Lisa Carter, the starbound xenobiologist, found Jake still kneeling beside the child 20 minutes later. She was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and graying hair, someone who had spent her life studying alien species. "Captain, we've been looking for you," she said, then noticed Zephyr. "Oh my, who is this?" "This is Zephyr," Jake said. "He's been abandoned here." Lisa knelt down beside Jake and studied the child's appearance. Her medical training kicked in immediately. "He's malnourished," she said quietly. "And those dark veins in his skin, I've never seen anything like them." A shadow fell across them, and they looked up to see a large reptilian saurian approaching. Jake recognized him as Vexstar, the station administrator. "Human," Vexstar said in his deep, gravelly voice. "You should not be near that creature." "This creature is a child," Jake said, standing up. "And he has a name." Vexstar's yellow eyes blinked slowly. "That is no ordinary child. It carries the shadow sickness." "The what?" Lisa asked. "The shadow sickness," Vexstar repeated. "It is a curse that affects some Velthani children. Their telepathic abilities become unstable and dangerous. They can damage the minds of others without meaning to." Jake looked down at Zephyr, who was now shaking. "So his parents just left him here?" "All civilized species avoid the shadow sick," Vexstar said. "The Velthani cast them out to protect their telepathic network. The child will die here, as is proper?" Jake's voice rose. "He's just a kid." "A dangerous kid," Vexstar said. "Already, 3 merchants have reported headaches after passing too close to it. The shadow sickness spreads." Lisa was running her medical scanner over Zephyr while they talked. "Captain, he's severely dehydrated and hasn't eaten in days. If we don't help him soon, he might not survive." Jake looked at the child, then at Vexstar, then back at the child. Every instinct he had as a human being told him to help. But he also knew that taking on a sick alien child would bring problems he couldn't imagine. "What exactly does this shadow sickness do?" he asked Vexstar. "The Velthani are telepaths," Vexstar explained. their minds linked together in a great network that spans their entire civilization. But children with the shadow sickness cannot control their mental abilities. They send out waves of emotion and thought that can drive others insane. They are chaos given form. Has anyone ever tried to treat it? Why would they? Vexstar seemed genuinely confused. The shadow sick are meant to die? It is the natural order. Jake felt his hands clench into fists. The natural order. He had heard that phrase used to justify too many horrible things in his lifetime. Lisa, can you help him? He asked. Lisa looked up from her scanner. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this condition, but I can try to stabilize him for now. Captain, Vexstar said, his voice carrying a warning. If you take that creature aboard your ship, you will face the judgment of the Galactic Council. No species will trade with you. No ports will welcome you. Jake looked down at Zephyr again. The child was watching him with those large eyes, and Jake could see something in them that broke his heart. Hope, despite everything that had happened to him. Despite being abandoned by his own family, the child still had hope that someone might care. Well, Jake said, reaching down to pick up Zephyr. I guess we'll just have to deal with that when it happens. Zephyr felt lighter than he should have, proof of how little he had eaten. As Jake lifted him, the child's skin began to change color, shifting from dark purple to a pale blue. Even with the ugly dark veins running through it, Jake could see that it was beautiful. You're making a mistake, human, Vexstar said. Maybe, Jake replied, but it's my mistake to make. Lisa gathered her medical equipment. I'll need to set up a quarantine area in the medical bay. Do whatever you need to do, Jake said, but we're taking him home. As they walked toward the docking bay where the Starbound waited, Jake could feel the eyes of every alien on the station following them. He heard whispers in languages his translator couldn't identify. Some sounded angry, others fearful. Zephyr pressed his face against Jake's shoulder, and Jake felt a strange, tingling sensation in his mind. Just for a moment, he experienced what the child was feeling. Confusion, fear, but also something else. Gratitude. It's going to be okay, Jake whispered. We're going to take care of you. He didn't know if that was true. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead or what the shadow sickness would really mean for his crew. But he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't walk away from a child in need. No matter what the rest of the galaxy thought about it, the Starbound's airlock hissed open, and Jake carried Zephyr inside. Behind them, the trade station continued its business, but Jake knew that something had changed. They had just made a choice that would affect not just their ship, but possibly the entire galaxy. As the airlock sealed shut, Jake looked down at the child in his arms and smiled. Welcome aboard, Zephyr. The Starbound's medical bay had never seen anything like Zephyr before. Dr. Lisa Carter worked quickly to set up a quarantine area while Captain Jake Morrison held the sick child. The crystalline skin continued to pulse with those dark veins, and every few minutes Zephyr would shiver uncontrollably. I need to run some tests, Lisa said, preparing her equipment. But I have to warn you, Captain. I don't know what we're dealing with here. Jake nodded and gently placed Zephyr on the medical bed. The child's eyes darted around the room, taking in all the strange human technology. When Lisa approached with her scanner, Zephyr pressed himself back against the wall. It's okay, Jake said softly. She's a doctor. She wants to help you. Zephyr's translator picked up the words, and his skin shifted to a lighter shade of blue. He allowed Lisa to run her scanner over his body, though he flinched at every beep and flash. Chief Engineer Pete Davis entered the medical bay carrying a toolkit. He was a burly man with calloused hands and a kind face. Captain, I've been thinking about what you told me. If this kid has unstable telepathic abilities, we might need to modify our systems. What do you mean? Jake asked. Well, telepathic energy can interfere with electronics, Pete explained. If the kid has random bursts of mental energy, it could mess with our computers, life support, even navigation. As if responding to Pete's words, Zephyr suddenly sat up straight on the medical bed. His eyes went wide and the dark veins in his skin began to glow. Every screen in the medical bay started flickering. Oh no, Lisa said, backing away from her equipment. The lights went out for a moment, then came back on. Zephyr collapsed back onto the bed, his breathing heavy. The screens returned to normal, but Jake could see the fear in the child's eyes. "I'm sorry," Zephyr whispered through the translator. "I didn't mean to." "It's not your fault," Jake said, moving closer to the bed. "We'll figure this out." Pete was already examining his toolkit. "I can install some shielding around the sensitive equipment. Maybe create a dampening field to reduce the interference." "Do it," Jake said. "Whatever you need." Amy Johnson, the ship's medic, arrived with a tray of different foods. She was young and energetic, with short red hair and a bright smile. "I brought some things that might work for his biology," she said. "I researched Velfani dietary needs in the database." Zephyr looked at the food with obvious hunger, but he hesitated to take any. Amy sat down beside the bed and picked up a small piece of fruit-like substance. "This is called a Zephyr fruit," she said. "It's from your homeworld. Would you like to try it?" Zephyr's eyes lit up at the mention of his homeworld. He took the fruit with shaking hands and bit into it. The taste seemed to bring back memories because his skin suddenly became brighter. "Thank you," he said, his voice stronger now, over the next few hours. The crew of the Starbound worked together to make Zephyr more comfortable. Pete installed electromagnetic shielding around the critical systems. Amy prepared special meals that would help restore the child's strength. Lisa continued her medical tests, trying to understand the shadow sickness, but the real challenge came when ship's counselor Dr. Ben Williams arrived. He was a tall, thin man with gray hair and gentle eyes. His job was to help crew members deal with stress and emotional problems. "I've been reading about Velfani psychology," Ben said to Jake. "Their entire society is built around their telepathic network. When a child is cast out, it's like losing a limb." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Imagine if you suddenly couldn't speak or hear," Ben explained. "But worse, because telepathy is how they connect with others emotionally. This child has been cut off from everything he's ever known." Jake looked through the medical bay window at Zephyr, who was picking at his food. Even from a distance, he could see the sadness in the child's posture. "Can you help him?" Jake asked. "I can try," Ben said. "But human psychology techniques might not work on an alien mind." Security Chief Rosa Martinez entered the medical bay with a serious expression. She was a compact woman with dark hair and sharp eyes. "Captain, we have a problem. I've been monitoring communications, and word is already spreading about what we did." "What kind of word?" Jake asked. 3 different alien governments have sent messages demanding we return the child," Rosa said. "The Velfani Council says we've stolen their property. The Galactic Health Authority is calling it a quarantine violation." Jake felt his jaw tighten. "Property? He's not property. He's a child." "That's not how they see it," Rosa continued. "And there's more. The Galactic Council has issued a formal censure. They're saying we've violated interspecies health protocols." Before Jake could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Pete's voice came over the intercom. "Captain to engineering, we've got a problem with the main computer." Jake rushed to the engineering section, where Pete was standing in front of a bank of flickering monitors. Sparks were flying from several control panels. "What happened?" Jake asked. "The kid had another episode," Pete said. "This one was stronger. The shielding held for the critical systems, but the secondary computers are fried. How long to fix it?" 6 hours, maybe 8, Pete said. "But Captain, if these episodes keep getting stronger, I don't know if my shielding will hold." Jake rubbed his face with his hands. They had been caring for Zephyr for less than a day, and already the problems were mounting. The child was sick, possibly getting worse, and the entire galaxy seemed to be turning against them. He returned to the medical bay, where Ben was sitting beside Zephyr's bed trying to talk to him. But the child had curled up in a ball and wouldn't respond to anyone. "He's shutting down," Ben said quietly. "I think he heard the alarms and knows he caused them. The guilt is overwhelming him." "Can you reach him?" Jake asked. "I'm trying, but he's closing himself off." "It's a defense mechanism." Lisa looked up from her test results. "Captain, I've found something. The shadow sickness isn't actually a disease. What do you mean? I mean, it's not caused by a virus or bacteria, Lisa explained. It's a genetic condition. The child's brain is structured differently from normal Velthani. His telepathic centers are more developed, but also more chaotic. So can we treat it? I don't know. But I think I understand why the other species are so afraid. His telepathic abilities aren't just unstable, they're powerful. Much more powerful than normal Velthani telepathy. Jake looked at Zephyr, still curled up on the medical bed. The child was shaking again, and the dark veins in his skin were pulsing faster. He's just a kid, Jake said. A scared, sick kid who needs help. I know, Lisa said. But to the rest of the galaxy, he's a weapon they can't control. Young engineer. Katie Brooks entered the medical bay carrying a small device. She was barely 22, fresh out of the academy, with blonde hair and bright eyes. Dr. Carter, I've been working on something that might help. What is it? Lisa asked. It's a neural stabilizer, Katie said. I modified one of our meditation headbands to work with Velthani brain patterns. It might help calm his telepathic activity. Katie approached Zephyr's bed slowly. Hey there, she said softly. I know you're scared. I was scared too when I first joined this crew. Zephyr looked up at her with those large eyes. Katie was closer to his age than the other adults, and something about her seemed less threatening. I made something for you, Katie said, showing him the device. It might help you feel better. Zephyr studied the device, then looked at Katie's face. Slowly, he reached out and took it from her hands. The moment he put it on, his skin began to change color, shifting from the sickly purple to a soft green. Better? Katie asked. Zephyr nodded, and for the first time since they had found him, he smiled. Jake watched this interaction and felt something shift inside him. They might be facing the anger of the entire galaxy, but they had also just seen a child? Smile for the first time in days. That had to count for something, Rosa, he said. Set course for Earth, we're going home. Captain, Rosa said carefully, Earth might not welcome us either, not with him aboard. Jake looked at Zephyr, who was now sitting up and talking quietly. With Katie, the child's skin was brighter now, and the dark veins seemed less prominent. Then we'll deal with that when we get there, Jake said. But we're not abandoning him. Not ever. The Starbound dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, but Captain Jake Morrison quickly realized they were not alone. 12 massive alien ships hung in space around the planet, their hulls gleaming with the colors of different species. Jake had never seen so many alien vessels gathered in one place. Captain, Communications Officer Ryan Murphy said from his station, we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship. It's High Arbiter Kethril of the Galactic Council. Jake straightened his uniform. Put him through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a tall, elegant alien with silver skin and 4 arms. Kethril's species, the Nethrani, were known for their diplomatic skills and their belief in order above all else. Captain Morrison, Kethril said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. You will dock with our vessel immediately. The Galactic Council demands an emergency. Hearing regarding your violation of interspecies health protocols. We're not violating anything, Jake said. We're helping a sick child. You are harboring a dangerous contaminant, Kethril replied. The shadow-sick creature you carry threatens the safety of all civilized species. You will surrender it immediately. Jake felt his anger rising. His name is Zephyr, and he's not an it. He's a child. The creature's name is irrelevant, Kethril said coldly. You have 1 hour to comply, or we will take it by force. The transmission ended, leaving Jake staring at the blank screen. Around him, his crew waited for orders. Sir, Rosa Martinez. Side, Earth Defense Command is requesting permission to assist. Admiral Chris Thompson says the entire fleet is ready to respond. Jake shook his head. No, this is our problem. We won't drag Earth into a war over one child. With respect, Captain, Dr. Lisa Carter said. It's already bigger than just us. The entire galaxy is watching. Jake knew she was right. In the medical bay, Zephyr was sleeping peacefully for the first time since they had found him. Katie Brooks' neural stabilizer was working, and the child's skin had returned to healthy colors. But outside, an entire fleet waited to take him away. "Captain," Ryan said, "Earth's ambassador is requesting permission to come aboard." "Ambassador Helen Roberts says she needs to speak with you before the hearing," Jake nodded. "Permission granted." Ambassador Roberts arrived an hour later, a woman in her 50s with graying hair and sharp eyes. She had spent 20 years dealing with alien politics and knew how the galaxy worked. "Captain Morrison," she said as she entered the bridge, "do you understand what you've done?" "I saved a child's life," Jake replied. "You've created the biggest diplomatic crisis in human history," Helen said. 12 species have united against us. They're demanding we surrender the child or face economic sanctions that could cripple Earth. So we give them a sick kid to make them happy?" Helen's expression softened. "I'm not saying that. But we need to be smart about this. The hearing will decide not just Zephyr's fate, but possibly humanity's place in the galactic community." Jake looked out at the alien ships surrounding Earth. "What do they want exactly?" "They want the child isolated on a quarantine world," Helen explained. "He would live alone until he dies, with no contact with any other beings. They call it a humane solution." "Humane?" Jake's voice rose. "They want to put a child in solitary confinement for the rest of his life? That's better than what some species wanted," Helen said quietly. The Korthek delegation pushed for immediate termination. Jake felt sick. These beings called themselves civilized, but they were talking about murdering a child because he was different. "I need to see him," Helen said. "I need to understand what we're dealing with." They went to the medical bay where Zephyr was awake and talking with Katie. The neural stabilizer had made a huge difference in his condition. His skin was bright. Blue-green and the dark veins were barely visible. "Hello, Zephyr," Helen said gently. "I'm Ambassador Roberts. I'm here to help you." Zephyr looked at her with those large eyes. "Are you going to send me away?" Helen's composure cracked for just a moment. "I'm going to try to make sure you're safe." "The other beings don't like me," Zephyr said. "They think I'm dangerous." "Are you dangerous?" Helen asked. Zephyr's skin darkened slightly. "I don't want to be, but sometimes my mind reaches out and I can't stop it." "It scares people." Dr. Carter stepped forward. "Ambassador, I've been studying his condition. The shadow sickness isn't a disease, it's an evolution. His telepathic abilities are more advanced than normal Velthani, but also harder to control." "Can you prove that?" Helen asked. "I think so, but I need more time." Helen checked her watch. "The hearing starts in 2 hours. We need to present our case then." The council chamber was set up on the Nethrani flagship, a massive room designed to accommodate multiple species. Jake sat at a small table with Ambassador Roberts. While representatives from 12 alien species filled the room around them, High Arbiter Kethril stood at the center, his forearms spread wide. "We gather today to address the reckless actions of the humans. They have endangered galactic civilization by harboring a shadow-sick creature." The first witness was Dr. Vexthan, a Velthani scientist with pale, shimmering skin. "The shadow sickness has plagued our people for centuries," he said. "Those afflicted lose control of their telepathic abilities. They become chaos generators, driving entire populations insane." "How many cases have you documented?" Helen asked. 17 major incidents in the past 300 years, Vexton replied. Each time, the shadow-sick individual had to be isolated to prevent further damage. "Isolated how?" Jake asked. "They were sent to dead worlds to live alone," Vexton said. "It was the only way to protect society." Jake wanted to speak, but Helen put a hand on his arm to stop him. The next witness was Captain Grexfer of the Korthek military. "The humans have violated the Galactic Health Accords," he said in his gravelly voice. "They have knowingly transported a biological hazard across multiple star systems." "The child is not a biological hazard," Helen said. "He's a living being." "With rights? Rights?" Grexfer laughed, a harsh sound. "The shadow-sick have no rights. They are mistakes of nature that should be corrected." The testimony continued for hours, with each species presenting evidence of why Zephyr was dangerous. They showed historical records, medical data, and psychological profiles. The picture they painted was of a child who was essentially a walking weapon. Finally, it was Helen's turn to present the human perspective. She stood and activated a holographic display. "My fellow representatives," she began, "you have heard testimony about the dangers of the shadow sickness. But you have not heard the complete truth." She showed images of Zephyr's brain scans. Dr. Carter's research shows that this condition is not a disease, it's an evolutionary adaptation. The child's brain is developing new neural pathways that allow for enhanced telepathic abilities. "Enhanced and uncontrolled," Kethril interrupted. "Uncontrolled, yes," Helen agreed. "But that doesn't mean it cannot be controlled. Our research suggests that with proper training and support, these abilities could be beneficial rather than harmful." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. The alien representatives had never heard such a suggestion. "You would risk the safety of billions for one creature?" asked Salandra, the Soltharian delegate. "We would risk everything for the life of one child," Helen replied. "That is what separates us from you." The room fell silent. Jake could feel the tension building as the two worldviews clashed. "The creature will be surrendered," Kethril announced. "It will be taken to Quarantine World Zarian 7, where it will live in isolation until natural death occurs." "No," Jake said, standing up. "We won't let that happen." "You have no choice in the matter," Kethril replied. "The decision is made." "Then you'll have to go through us first," Jake said. The alien representatives looked at each other in shock. A single human ship was defying the entire Galactic Council. "Captain Morrison," Kethril said, "you cannot possibly hope to resist our combined fleets." "Maybe not," Jake said. "But we're going to try." As if responding to the emotional tension in the room, Zephyr's telepathic abilities suddenly activated. Every being in the chamber felt a wave of emotion wash over them. The child's memories of abandonment, fear, and desperate hope for acceptance. For a moment, the entire assembly experienced what it felt like to be rejected by everyone you had ever known. They felt the crushing loneliness of being called a monster when all you wanted was to belong. The telepathic wave lasted only seconds, but its impact was profound. Several of the alien representatives looked shaken, and Jake saw tears in Helen's eyes. "That," Helen said quietly, "is what you want to condemn to a lifetime of solitude." Kethril's expression had not changed, but Jake noticed that some of the other representatives were whispering among themselves. The child's accidental telepathic BROADCAS had shown them something they had not expected to see: his humanity. "The decision stands," Kethril announced. "The creature will be isolated. This hearing is concluded." But as the representatives filed out of the chamber, Jake noticed that not all of them looked convinced. The seed of doubt had been planted, and he wondered if it might be enough to change some minds. The real battle was just beginning. The tension in space around Earth grew thicker with each passing hour. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Starbound, watching as more alien ships arrived to join the growing fleet. The Korthak brought their massive battle cruisers, while the Soltharian Empire deployed their elegant but deadly warships. Even species that rarely involved themselves in galactic politics had sent vessels. "Captain," Communications Officer Ryan Murphy said, his voice tight with worry. "Admiral, Chris Thompson is requesting permission to deploy Earth's defense fleet." Jake shook his head. "Tell the Admiral we appreciate the offer, but this is our fight." "Sir, with respect," Security Chief Rosa Martinez said, "we're one ship against 50. If they decide to take Zephyr by force, we can't stop them." Jake knew. Rosa was right, but he also knew that involving Earth's military would turn this into a war. He looked through the medical bay window where Zephyr was working with Dr. Ben Williams on controlling his telepathic abilities. The child had no idea that half the galaxy wanted him dead or imprisoned. "Captain," Dr. Lisa Carter said, entering the bridge with a datapad, "I need to show you something. I've been analyzing the telepathic wave that Zephyr produced during the hearing." She activated the main screen, showing brain scans and energy readings. The emotional broadcast he created wasn't random. It was precise, controlled and incredibly sophisticated. What do you mean? Jake asked. I mean, he didn't just send out his emotions, Lisa explained. He created a perfect telepathic translation that allowed each species to understand his feelings despite their different brain structures. That level of telepathic skill should be impossible for someone his age. Ambassador Helen Roberts, who had remained aboard the Starbound since the hearing, studied the data. Are you saying he did it on purpose? I don't think so, Lisa said. But his subconscious mind is far more advanced than we realized. The shadow sickness isn't making him dangerous, it's making him incredibly gifted. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Ryan's hands flew over his console as incoming messages flooded the communication system. Captain, we're receiving transmission from multiple sources, Ryan said. The Metheny healers are breaking ranks with the Council. They're publicly supporting our position. On the main screen, the image of Selthara, a female Metheny with the characteristic healing crystals embedded in her forehead, appeared. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their medical knowledge and compassion. People of the galaxy, Selthara said, we have remained silent too long about the shadow sickness. Our research shows that these children are not diseased. They are evolved. We stand with the humans in protecting this child. More messages came in rapid succession. Dr. Carter's scientific data had been leaked somehow, and it was spreading through the Galactic communication network. Species that had remained neutral were beginning to question the official story about the shadow sickness. Captain, Rosa said, we're getting a message from the Korthic fleet. Captain Grexver wants to speak with you directly. The reptilian Korthak commander appeared on screen, his scaled face showing obvious anger. Human Morrison, you have poisoned the minds of our allies with your propaganda. Return the creature now, or we will take it by force. The child stays with us, Jake said firmly. Then you have chosen war, Grexver said. We will not allow this contamination to spread further. The transmission ended and Jake could see the Korthic ships beginning to move into attack formation. But before they could complete their maneuver, something unexpected happened. Captain, Ryan said, his voice filled with amazement, Earth's defense fleet is deploying anyway. Admiral Thompson says humanity doesn't abandon its own. Through the viewports, Jake could see Earth ships rising from the planet's surface. They were smaller than most of the alien vessels, but they moved with precision and purpose. Admiral Thompson's flagship, the Defiance, took position directly between the Starbound and the alien fleet. Admiral Thompson to Captain Morrison, came the familiar voice over the communication system. I know you wanted to handle this alone, but sometimes a family has to stick together. Jake felt emotion welling up in his chest. Earth was risking everything for one alien child, but the real surprise came when other ships began arriving. A small fleet of Metheny medical vessels dropped out of hyperspace, followed by a group of young Seltharian pilots who had broken away from their main fleet. This is incredible, Helen said. They're splitting their own forces. In the medical bay, Zephyr was becoming increasingly agitated as he sensed the conflict brewing around him. His skin had darkened to a deep purple, and the neural stabilizer Katie Brooks had made was struggling to contain his emotional turmoil. I'm causing all this trouble, Zephyr said to Dr. Williams. Maybe I should go with them. Maybe everyone would be safer? No, Dr. Williams said firmly. You're not responsible for other people's fear and prejudice. Katie Brooks was working frantically at a nearby console, trying to improve the stabilizer's effectiveness. Zephyr, remember what we practiced? Focus on the calm feelings, not the scared ones, but Zephyr's distress was growing stronger. I can feel all the angry thoughts out there. So many people hate me, and they don't even know me. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered as Zephyr's telepathic ability spiked again. This time the wave was different. Instead of projecting his own emotions, he was picking up the feelings of everyone in the surrounding fleet. Oh no, Dr. Williams said. He's absorbing their emotions instead of projecting his own. Zephyr collapsed on the medical bed, overwhelmed by the hatred, fear, and anger coming from dozens of alien minds. His skin began shifting through rapid color changes as his brain tried to process the emotional overload. Katie, can you boost? The stabilizer? Dr. Carter asked. I'm trying, but it's not designed for this level of input, Katie replied. Jake rushed to the medical bay as Zephyr's condition worsened. The child was shaking uncontrollably and his telepathic distress was affecting the entire ship. Crew members throughout the Starbound were experiencing sudden waves of anxiety and fear. We need to get him away from here, Jake said. All these mines around us are making him sick. Where can we go? Rosa asked. The entire galaxy is watching. Before anyone could answer, Ryan's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we're receiving a message from someone claiming to be Elder Nethys of the Velfani government. She says it's urgent. Jake ran back to the bridge where the image of an elderly Velfani female appeared on the main screen. Her crystalline skin was pale with age, but her eyes held wisdom and authority. Captain Morrison, Elder Nethys said, I am coming to Earth with vital information about the child you protect. What I have to tell you will change everything. What information? Jake asked. The child's true identity, Nethys replied. He's not just any shadow-sick Velfani. He is the son of our former high telepathist, abandoned because his abilities threatened our government's power structure. Jake felt his world shift. You mean he's royalty? More than that, Nethys said. He represents the next evolution of our species, and there are others like him hidden throughout the galaxy. We have been covering up their existence for generations. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. They weren't just protecting one abandoned child, they were protecting the future of an entire species evolution. Elder Nethys, Jake said, how soon can you get here? I am already in your solar system, she replied. But Captain, you must know that by coming forward, I am committing treason against my own government. They will try to stop me from reaching. You, as if summoned by her words, a group of Velfani warships appeared on the edge of the system, moving fast toward Earth. It seems, Elder Nethys said grimly, that we are about to discover just how far your species will go to protect the innocent. Jake looked around at his crew, then at the growing fleet of ships, both hostile and friendly. In the medical bay, Zephyr was fighting for his sanity while the galaxy fought over his fate. The stakes had just gotten much higher, but Jake's resolve remained unchanged. Whatever it takes, he said quietly. We protect the child. Outside, the two Velfani fleets raced toward each other, with Earth caught in the middle. The real battle was about to begin, and it would determine not just Zephyr's future, but the future of evolution itself. Elder Nethys' ship raced through space toward Earth while the Velfani government fleet pursued her with deadly intent. Captain Jake Morrison watched the chase unfold on his screens, knowing that the elderly alien carried information that could change everything. Captain, Communications Officer Ryan Murphy said, Elder Nethys is requesting emergency docking. She says the government ships will fire on her within minutes. Permission granted, Jake said immediately. Get her aboard as fast as possible. In the medical bay, Zephyr's condition had worsened dramatically. The child was no longer conscious. His body shaking as waves of telepathic energy poured from his mind. Dr. Lisa Carter and Katie Brooks worked desperately to stabilize him while the neural device sparked and smoked from overload. His brain is trying to process too many minds at once, Dr. Carter said. With all these ships around us, he's picking up thoughts and emotions from thousands of beings. Dr. Ben Williams monitored Zephyr's vital signs with growing concern. If we can't stop this soon, the overload could cause permanent damage. Katie's hands flew over her equipment as she tried to boost the neural stabilizer's power. I'm getting some weird readings, she said. It's like his telepathic abilities are evolving in real time. Before anyone could respond, Elder Nethys arrived. In the medical bay, her ancient face filled with urgency. She moved directly to Zephyr's bedside and placed her crystalline hands on his forehead. Child of the new path, she whispered in the musical Velfani language. You are not alone. Immediately, Zephyr's shaking stopped. His skin began to shift from the chaotic color patterns to a steady, peaceful blue. Elder Nethys had somehow calmed his telepathic storm. How did you do that? Dr. Carter asked in amazement. I am one of the few who remembers the old ways, Nethys replied. Before our government decided that evolution was dangerous, we knew how to guide the shadow-blessed children. Shadow-blessed? Jake asked. .NET HYS nodded. That is what we called them before fear made us rename them shadow-sick. These children are not cursed. They are the next step in Velfani development. She activated a small device that projected holographic images into the air. The images showed Velfani children throughout history, all with the same dark veins in their crystalline skin that marked Zephyr. For 300 years, our government has been hiding the truth, Nethys continued. Children like Zephyr have been appearing more frequently. Instead of celebrating this evolution, our leaders decided it threatened their control over the telepathic network. Control how? Ambassador Helen Roberts asked. The Shadow Blessed can communicate across species barriers, Nethys explained. They can translate thoughts and emotions between different types of minds. If this ability spread, it would make our rigid caste system impossible to maintain. Jake felt anger building in his chest. So you've been abandoning children to protect your government's power? Not me, Nethys said firmly. But yes, that is what has been happening. And it's not just the Velfani. Other species have been doing the same thing. She changed the holographic display to show documents from multiple alien governments. The Korthak have been eliminating children born with unusual empathic abilities. The Cytherian Empire has been hiding younglings who can communicate with artificial intelligences. Even the peaceful Metheny have been secretly isolating children who can heal mental trauma. Dr. Carter studied the data with growing excitement. These aren't random genetic defects. This is coordinated evolution across multiple species. Exactly, Nethys said. Something is driving the development of these abilities throughout the galaxy. But instead of studying it, most governments have chosen to suppress it. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Rosa Martinez's voice came over the intercom. Captain, to the bridge immediately. The Velfani government fleet is demanding we surrender Elder Nethys. Jake rushed to the bridge where the main screen showed 3 massive Velfani warships approaching Earth. Behind them, the Korthak and Sotharian fleets were also moving into position. This is Commander Vexthal of the Velfani Defense Force, came a harsh voice over the communication system. You are harboring a traitor and a dangerous creature. Surrender both immediately or face the consequences. The consequences? Jake replied. You mean like abandoning children because they're inconvenient? You do not understand the forces you are dealing with, human, Vexthal said. The shadow sick are unpredictable. They could destroy entire civilizations. Admiral Chris Thompson's voice cut in from the Earth Defense Fleet. Commander Vexthal, this is Admiral Thompson. You are in Earth space without permission. Withdraw your ships immediately. We will not be intimidated by a primitive species, Vexthal replied. Stand aside or be destroyed. The tension in space reached a breaking point as multiple fleets faced each other. But before anyone could fire the first shot, something extraordinary happened. Young Communications Officer Ryan Murphy suddenly gasped and clutched his head. Captain, I'm getting something strange on all frequencies. It's like a coordinated signal, but it's not coming from any of our ships. The main screen flickered and changed to show a new image. It was a group of alien children from different species, all with the same types of unusual abilities that marked them as different. They were standing together on what looked like a hidden space station. People of the galaxy, said a young Korthak female with unusual silver markings on her. Scales, we are the children you have abandoned and hidden. We are the ones you call cursed or dangerous. A Sotharian youth with eyes that glowed with artificial light stepped forward. We have found each other despite your efforts to keep us apart. We have learned to control our abilities and use them to help others. The image shifted to show more children, dozens of them from species throughout the galaxy. All of them bore the marks of the abilities their societies feared. We are not mistakes, said a Metheny child whose healing crystals shone with unusual brightness. We are your future, and we will no longer hide. Jake stared at the screen in amazement. Somehow, these abandoned children had found each other and created their own society. Elder Nethys smiled as she watched from the bridge. The children have been communicating in secret for years. Zephyr's telepathic wave during the council hearing was like a signal flare. It let them know where he was. How many are there? Ambassador Roberts asked. More than anyone imagined, Nethys replied. And they're done being afraid. On the screen, Zephyr appeared among the other children. He looked healthier and stronger than Jake had ever seen him, his skin glowing with beautiful patterns. Captain Morrison, Zephyr said, looking directly at the camera, thank you for not abandoning me. You showed me that being different doesn't mean being alone. The transmission continued as the children demonstrated their abilities. They showed how they could heal mental trauma, facilitate communication between hostile species, and solve complex problems by linking their unique minds together. These abilities, said an elderly human scientist who appeared on screen, represent the next stage of galactic evolution. I am Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and I've been secretly studying these children for 20 years. Jake's jaw dropped. Dr. Mitchell was one of Earth's most respected xenobiologists, and she had apparently been missing for 2 decades. The children aren't dangerous, Dr. Mitchell continued. They're the solution to most of the galaxy's problems. They can end wars by helping species understand each other. They can heal psychological damage that has lasted for generations. They can even help artificial intelligences and organic minds work together. Commander Vexthal's voice cut through the transmission, lies and propaganda. These creatures are weapons that will destroy our way of life. You're right, said the young Korthic female. We will destroy your way of life. We'll destroy the hatred, the fear, and the prejudice that makes you abandon children for being different. As the transmission ended, Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Every one of them looked stunned by what they had just witnessed. Well, Ambassador Roberts said quietly, I think we just learned that this was never really about one child. Elder. Nethys nodded. Zephyr was just the beginning. The real question now is whether the galaxy will embrace its future or try to destroy it. Outside, the opposing fleets still faced each other in tense standoff. But now everyone knew that the stakes were much higher than anyone had imagined. This wasn't just about one abandoned alien child anymore. It was about the future of galactic civilization itself. The galaxy held its breath as the truth about the abandoned children spread through every communication network. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the Starbound as the massive fleets around Earth began to change their positions. Some ships were backing away from the conflict, while others moved closer as if preparing for battle. Captain, Communications Officer Ryan Murphy said, we're receiving messages from all over the galaxy. Some governments are demanding we stop the transmission, but others are asking for more information. Elder Nethys stood beside Jake, her ancient face calm despite the chaos around them. The children have forced the galaxy to face a choice it has been avoiding for centuries. There will be no going back now. On the main screen, more transmissions were coming in from the hidden station where the abandoned children had gathered. Dr. Sarah Mitchell appeared again, this time with detailed scientific data about the children's abilities. The evolution we're witnessing isn't random, Dr. Mitchell explained. These children represent a natural response to the galaxy's growing conflicts. Their abilities allow for true understanding between species that have been enemies for millennia. Ambassador Helen Roberts studied the incoming data with amazement. The implications are staggering. If these children can really facilitate communication between hostile species, they could end wars that have lasted for centuries. But not everyone was ready to accept this new reality. Commander Vexthal of the Velthani government fleet sent another demanding message. Humans, you have unleashed chaos upon the galaxy, Vexthal said, his voice filled with anger. These creatures will destroy the order that has kept peace between our worlds. What peace? Jake replied. You mean the peace that comes from abandoning children and pretending evolution doesn't exist? Before Vexthal could respond, something unexpected happened. Several ships from his own fleet began to break formation. Young Volthani officers were openly defying their commanders, moving their vessels away from the attack positions. "This is Sub-Commander Kithara," came a female voice over the communication system. "I refuse to fire on beings who are protecting children. My orders are to serve my people's future, not destroy it." Similar mutinies were breaking out across the various fleets. Young officers from multiple species were refusing to participate in what they now saw as an attack on evolution itself. In the medical bay of the Starbound, Zephyr had awakened and was watching the transmissions with wide eyes. His skin glowed with healthy blue-green patterns, and the neural stabilizer Katie Brooks had built was working perfectly. "Captain Morrison," Zephyr said through the intercom, "may I speak to everyone?" Jake nodded. "Ryan, patch Zephyr through." "To all frequencies." The young Valthani's image appeared on screens throughout the fleet. He looked directly at the camera, his large eyes filled with a wisdom that seemed far beyond his years. "My name is Zephyr," he said in his musical voice. 3 days ago, I thought I was alone in the universe. I thought I was broken and dangerous. But the humans taught me something important. Being different doesn't mean being wrong." He paused, and Jake could see tears forming in the child's eyes. "I know there are others like me out there hiding because they're afraid. But you don't have to be afraid anymore. There are people who will help you, who will see your gifts instead of your differences." Commander Vextel's voice cut through the transmission. "Enough of this nonsense. All ships, prepare to fire on the human vessel." "But—" His order was met with silence. Ship after ship reported that their crews were refusing to follow orders. The younger generation of aliens had heard enough to know that their governments had been lying to them. High Arbiter Kethril of the Galactic Council tried to restore order. "All vessels will stand down immediately. This transmission is illegal and must be stopped." "No," said a new voice. It was Silphara, the Methany healer who had first broken ranks to support the humans. "This transmission will continue until every parent in the galaxy knows what we've been doing to our own children." More ships began arriving in Earth space, but these weren't warships. They were medical vessels, research ships, and civilian transports. Families were coming to Earth, bringing their own hidden children, the ones they had been secretly protecting. Despite their government's orders, Dr. Lisa Carter was amazed as the reports came in. "Jake, we're seeing children with extraordinary abilities from every major species. This isn't just evolution, it's coordinated evolution on a galactic scale." "Elder?" Nethi smiled sadly. "The universe is trying to bring us together, but our fears have been driving us apart. These children are the bridge we need." The real turning point came when a massive Korthic battleship suddenly changed course and moved to protect the human fleet. The ship's captain, a grizzled warrior named Belthek, appeared on screen. "I have served in wars for 50 years, Belthek said in his gravelly voice. "I have seen what happens when species cannot understand each other. If these children can prevent even one war, they are worth protecting." Admiral Chris Thompson coordinated with the growing number of ships that were now defending Earth rather than threatening it. "Captain Morrison, we've got vessels from 17 different species forming a protective barrier around the planet." But the real surprise came when Dr. Sarah Mitchell made another announcement from the hidden station. "The children have agreed to demonstrate their abilities publicly," she said. "They want to show the galaxy what cooperation instead of conflict can accomplish." The screen changed to show children from different species working together on what appeared to be a massive project. Jake watched in amazement as they used their combined abilities to solve complex mathematical problems, heal psychological trauma and rescued prisoners of war, and even repair damaged spacecraft using only their minds. "This is impossible," muttered one of the alien commanders who was still loyal to the old order. "No," Elder Nethi said. "This is the future." The demonstration continued for hours, with the children showing ability after ability that had been suppressed by their societies. They could translate not just language, but emotion and intent between species that had never been able to communicate before. They could heal mental damage that had been considered permanent. They could even interface with artificial intelligences in ways that created entirely new forms of problem-solving. As the day progressed, more and more governments began to crack under pressure from their own citizens. Parents who had hidden their gifted children for years began to speak out. Scientists who had been forced to suppress their research came forward with decades of hidden data. The Galactic Council found itself facing a revolution unlike anything in recorded history. Not a violent overthrow, but a complete transformation of how species viewed evolution and cooperation. Captain Morrison received a message that made him smile. "Captain, this is the transport ship New Beginnings. We're carrying 47 families who want to bring their children to Earth for safety and training." "Permission granted," Jake said without hesitation. Ambassador Roberts looked at the tactical display showing the massive fleet of ships now surrounding Earth in protection rather than threat. "Jake, I think we just witnessed the birth of a new galactic civilization." Elder Nethys placed a gentle hand on Jake's shoulder. "Captain Morrison, when you refused to abandon one frightened child, you changed the course of galactic history. The children will remember what humanity did here. They will carry your compassion forward as they build a better universe." Zephyr appeared on the bridge, his skin glowing with patterns more beautiful than Jake had ever seen. The child who had been huddled in the shadows of a trade station just days ago now stood tall and confident. "Captain," Zephyr said, "the other children want to establish a school. A place where young beings from all species can learn to use their gifts to help others. Will you help us build it?" Jake knelt down to Zephyr's level and smiled. "Kid, after everything we've been through, I think Earth would be honored to host the galaxy's first school for extraordinary children." Outside the ship, the former enemies were already beginning to work together. Korthic engineers were sharing technology with Soltharian scientists. Methany healers were teaching human doctors. Velthani telepaths were learning to communicate with artificial intelligences. The galaxy had been changed forever by one simple human principle: never abandon those who need help, no matter the cost. And as Jake watched Zephyr's skin shimmer with joy, he knew that the universe would be a better place because of it. The age of fear was ending, and the age of understanding had begun.